Hello, my name is Harsha Senratna, and today I'm here with Christine Long, who's the founder of the Australian Aromatic Essences and also the Core Issue Elimination Technique. Welcome, Christine.
Yes, thank you, Harsha. It's lovely to be here.
Look, Christine, I'm fascinated to find out about this technique. Now, what can the Core Issue Elimination Technique, like? Why would someone come to you and ask for assistance using this modality?
Uh, well, for people who either are aspiring to something more in their life, so they might be bubbling along reasonably well, and things aren't a disaster in their life. However, they just feel a calling. They're driven or have an inner desire to go to another a level in their life, and they can feel a bit stuck and not sure what it is that's holding them back, and they need to go to that next level. Or it's for people that may be really struggling that in an aspect of their life, whether it's around money issues or career issues, relationship problems, things like that, that are really looking at them in their face.
Yeah.
Um, then they would have a core issue elimination technique session.
Okay, so if someone's, say, struggling with their relationships, I mean, they'll know on a conscious level, look, I need to work a bit more on my relationship. Is that, like, do you work on strategies for them to apply, or is it more than that, where it goes a little bit deeper?
Um, it is absolutely more than that, and a certain level of conscious strategies and understanding dynamics can be very, very useful and helpful. But I've had 25 years experience facilitating people, and this is why this core issue elimination is now available. It's a very advanced technology, energy technology, and the reason being that we only end up managing our issues. So when they come to the fore and we become conscious that maybe we don't communicate well in a relationship, or we've got insecurities, or there might be some jealous issues, or we just know that we're not dealing with a relationship well, or we've got a pattern of creating the same issues in relationships, we're very aware that there's an issue, and so that we read the books and we endeavour to manage that to improve. Now, some of this can be very helpful, but one of the concerns is it's managing. And if you have a bad day or weak moment, or you're out of balance in any way emotionally, or you're stressed, and let's face it, life does throw us a few curveballs and so on. We can't always manage it and be on top of it, and it's a lot of work, a lot of energy goes into managing, because it's a little bit, the analogy I often use, it's like just moving from one, like moving the furniture in the house, moving the chair from one corner to the other. It can change the energy of the room. It can be more aesthetically pleasing. It can be more comfortable, but the chair is still there. And so ultimately, it's not really addressing the issue, because it's only a matter of time that when you continue in the relationship, that something's going to fall short. So the idea of the core issue elimination is to eliminate the actual bottom line core issue that is the foundation and the core and the root cause of why you're having trouble in certain aspects of a relationship, for example.
So what is it, if you're managing a problem that you have, are you saying that it's just going to come back, or?
Well, managing it hasn't actually gone, because if you're managing something, it's still there. So
Okay.
that's a really important distinction to make, even in your wording. Then it's not a matter of coming back; it's never gone. And that's the analogy where I used the chair analogy just at the top of my head, which probably wasn't the perfect analogy, but the chair's still there. So over time, that chair, even though it's in a different spot in the room, over time that will also become uncomfortable after a period of time, because the idea would be to remove the chair and replace it with something that that fits you, that works for you with who you are now. And a lot of our issues are from the past. And rather than just going into the past for the sake of it and raking up lots of head stuff about this happened to me and that happened to me and this is all the issues, the core issue cuts through all of that. So we don't need to discuss all of those things, because the more you rake up stuff, the more they become an issue and more stories are created. So the key is for us to actually access what the core issue is and then eliminate it. And the person actually works with me to do that. It's a very simple, easy protocol, and it's systematically you go through that process. It takes only a few moments, but then it's eliminated once and for all. And so then the room, if we use that analogy, is clear. And then we can make choices whether we want to stay in that room, whether we want to redecorate that room, what we want to do with our life, basically, or what you want, how you want to be from now on. And you're not continually having a rubber band taking you back to the old. You can start afresh. And so your perceptions of the relationship, what you attract within the relationship, are going to be quite different to what they were initially.
So it sounds to me like we're not just coming at a mind level or a conscious level. It's at a higher level that we're addressing the problem.
Well, that's right, because a conscious level is useful, and we need a conscious mind to operate in the world. But it's literally, and sometimes it ruffles people's feathers when I say this, but our conscious mind is just a pea, really, compared to the rest of all of who we are. And so when we're trying to cram in managing our issues with our conscious mind, it's just a drop in the ocean in regard to the bigger picture. And the core issue elimination accesses the ocean, accesses the bigger picture of you, the whole of you. And we access where that core issue is. And then, of course, it's like when you weed the garden and you pull out the weed and the actual root, then that makes a big difference, because that particular weed is never going to grow back. And so we want to find out where that is in the whole of you, on what level that is. And a person, when they come for a session, doesn't have to know that, because otherwise that's just hard work. How are people going to access that and know that themselves? And this is where people tend to chase their tail a bit around issues. And I often see people, and they'll be talking about what their blocks are or what an issue might be in a relationship, and you'll still talk to them in 2 years' time, albeit to their credit, they may have worked quite diligently on getting better at managing it, but it's still there. And so I'm a little bit of a turbocharged woman, and I like to think, well, life is so short. Wouldn't it be great to just eliminate that, to shift your consciousness, to shift your perceptions, so that you have a different reality and a different experience of your life. And we can do that when we eliminate the things that are blocking us or holding us back or pulling us back into the past, and then living it out.
So what I'd like to know is what is the result we're chasing? Is it that we want to completely clear of that problem so we can move to another level?
Well, yes. And the work that this particular work is for people who want to do that. And sometimes people don't, mainly because they don't even know they can.
Yeah.
Maybe they are afraid of doing that. That can happen. But the clients that I attract are people that have perhaps hit the wall and feel like, right, I've ignored this for too long, and it's now creating health issues in my life, or financial concerns, or lots of hurt and pain. I'm really ready to do what it takes to get rid of this so I can move beyond it. And so that's really what this work is for. It's for people who are really quite genuine and sincere in shifting whatever it is that's holding them back so they can move forward.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the energetic hologram, how that fits into this picture.
Okay. Well, the terminology you're using, the energetic hologram, that can be one way of uh, talking about it, we have an energy body intelligence, and there's varying levels of that, and it's like our energy blueprint, our energy matrix, which is holographic in its form. And with the core issue elimination technique, we have access to that.
Yeah.
And then and because of the certain protocol that is set up within the work, we can access the core issue, so that we can get to the bottom line very efficiently, very accurately, and do something about it.
Okay. So it's a method. Is it the subconscious? Would that be
So it
another?
goes beyond the subconscious. The subconscious is very important. It does rule us in many ways. It's the analogy that you use when you're driving somewhere and you don't even remember how you got there. That is your subconscious driving you. We do a lot of things subconsciously, and that's a very important aspect, and it does go beyond the conscious mind. So that's certainly useful and helpful, and this is where a lot of hypnotherapy and different therapies out there really can support and help people. But sometimes it's still not quite enough. The entrenched pattern and the entrenched block it has got so many tangents to it that it affects a person quite dramatically in many ways, and no matter what work they do or however they try and get a handle on it, what can actually happen, it can even create even more issues and more stories about an issue. So for example, if you've got an issue in a relationship and you start putting a story on it like, well, I do this because that's what my mum did in her relationship, and now I'm doing it. So if I'm different to my mum and I do this differently, then I'll get a different result. Now, in reality, in consciously, that makes perfect sense. But if that person energetically has a core block or an issue in relationship to that, they will still be putting out mixed messages. So consciously, they don't want to be and create a pattern like their mother, but energetically, in their hologram, if you put it, or their energy body intelligence, that will be putting out a contrary message. It will be contradicting what the person wants consciously, and this is why sometimes the mindset is a very powerful thing, but sometimes it just isn't quite enough. Because when you shift your mindset, it doesn't seem to stay. Um, things seem to creep in and sabotage it, or you can't maintain that level. And that's because there's a root or a core issue that's still playing out, that's still alive, and still sending out the wrong messages.
Now, there's numerous people in the personal development field who say, your mind is, your body and your brain it's a bit like a computer, and you can upgrade your software. So is this a bit like a software upgrade where you have a new program running so you can get to where you want to?
Well, it can be, and there's various modalities out there that can get access to the software, and they're very useful and some are very powerful. But the distinction with core issue elimination, I have to say that it's the cream of the cream. I have not come across anything that is as powerful and as accurate and as efficient as this. It really gets to those really entrenched patternings and sabotages that are very insidious and very elusive, and they're very hard to find. And when we're trying to find them, it can, as I said earlier, it can even create more issues because we put more stories on stories, and it can become so convoluted that we're not sure what's going on. And especially if they're relationship issues, because it is very easy to project onto another person, and it's a bit of human nature to do that to a degree in our interactions. And so then we're very confused about who's doing what and what's happening, and we can put even more stories and attach even more blocks to a situation. So this is why I'm very gung-ho, or very passionate about people understanding the distinction when you get to the bottom line core issue and the related issues to that core issue, and you actually eliminate them. You're coming from a clean slate, and then you can start moving forward from a whole different paradigm. And there's so many times in so many situations with my clients, because we're using relationships as an example here, but it would be in any aspect of someone's life. But so many clients say to me, even if they come back after a few months for a bit of for another session for something else, and I'll say, oh, how's your husband? Or are you finding, that got sorted or whatever? And they don't even remember it was an issue.
Yep. I guess they've moved on to that next level, yeah?
Correct. It's not even in their consciousness. It's like it wasn't even a part of their reality. And everyone says after they've had a session that they don't even remember exactly what really transpired in the session. You're very conscious in the session. You are participating in the session. You're aware of what's coming up, what we're doing. You'll participate in the whole process. But amazingly, when the session is complete, we'll have an inkling of what happened, but sometimes just all the story, all the stuff that's cleared is no longer in your reality, and you've already moved beyond it. And so it's not continued, because so many times I hear people talk about, a past life and this is why they're like this now. When they're talking about that, that hasn't been cleared, and they're still living that out on some level. And I'm really passionate about really getting across to people the distinction of real moving beyond these sorts of blockages, because now on the planet more than ever, the vibration is we're operating and have the opportunity to operate at a whole new paradigm of consciousness, and we don't have to keep staying in those old patterns at all.
Yep. And I think people in general are becoming more aware of their energy body, and that there's more to us than what we term physical, and that physical is also energy, right? I mean, they're one in the same almost, or there's a overlap between them.
Absolutely, Harsha, and it's a really good point, because everything is a vibration, everything is energy. From the chair to the computer that we're communicating through, everything is energy. It's just resonating and vibrating at a different frequency. Our physical body, because it's physical matter, is a certain frequency. But the hologram you mentioned, the energy body intelligence, our emotional body, our mental, our spiritual body, there are so many aspects to ourselves. We have an energy matrix, and that is still part of us, and it's all connected. And when we have access to those higher frequencies and that higher energy, and we can shift that ripples out into our physical and ripples out into our everyday life. And when that's not addressed, and we still try and slog it out physically and consciously, it can make a certain amount of difference, because we have to take responsibility for our everyday life. But it's these other levels that keep sabotaging us. They're there. We're just not exactly sure what they are, and that's why they keep getting in our way.
So you mentioned that people who you attract to have these sessions are generally at a certain level in their life, and they just want to take it to the next level. If someone were to come to you, say they had a problem with, let's say they had a problem with money, or they're not making money, they haven't got work, or they're finding it hard to save money, how would this technique help them, and what would be involved if they first came to you?
Okay. Well, what actually happens is you just fill in a form, and it's not too daunting. It's just an A4 sheet with some questions. Probably takes about 5 minutes to complete.
Yeah.
And there's some boxes to tick. And then we hone in on what the person wants to work with. And then we set up the protocol, and we then address it. Now, to answer your question, if it was money issues, and there was a few examples there, but money is energy, and it's all around our self-worth and our vibration in attracting it. So through our upbringing and our conditioning in this present time in our life, we can have created limitations, but it also may be from another lifetime, or it could be generational. There can even be very heavy programs that have infiltrated our subconscious and our mind that we're not completely aware of, but it's that insidious self-talk that we often hear at different times. So if it was around money, it might be, oh, they'll never pay me that, or I'll never have enough money for that, or these sorts of limitations, or, you know, that won't happen because I can't afford it. And they're just subtle things that we are just so used to having that we don't realize what's going on. And the core issue, depending on the particular requirement for the individual, we can access exactly what those programs are, word for word. And people, when I read it out to them, they say, oh my God, that is what goes on in my head. And it's word for word. And that's the distinction, because we can guess that there's a program going on if someone's struggling with money. You know, that's not a new concept. And there's, you know, in the transformational world out there. But the distinction with this work is absolutely precisely finding what that is, word for word, and actually having the technology and the energy ability to eliminate it. And once that's cleared, that program's gone. It's like clearing a virus on your computer. It's done.
Yeah.
It's finished.
Yep.
And your computer starts operating at a whole new level. And so your life and what you're putting out there in your life is a completely different message and vibration. So what you get back is completely different. And a lot of people will say, oh, my husband's changed, or my kids aren't doing that anymore. And they're the ones that have had the session, but they've shifted themselves so much that how their life responds back to them is different.
Yep. And so would it be a series of sessions that you'd go through the core issues with people, or would it, how would it occur, like over a month? Or?
Well, yes. Well, it's different for everyone, and some people might just come for a couple of sessions to clear something, and others, once they get the taste of it and they're aspiring to more in their life, and they might first want to address stuff around money, and then stuff around their health, and then relationships, and then their career, and so on, and they might come, say, once a month over a year or so. Which isn't a lot of sessions, really. It's only, a dozen sessions.
Yep.
Because that just keeps them moving forward to the next level and next level. Because it is a little bit like starting to clean out a cupboard. You do the first shelf and it's all pristine and clear, and then you look at the rest of the shelves and you think, gee, I wouldn't mind cleaning out that shelf and that shelf. So that's what happens for a lot of people. But it's not necessary to come every week and work through stuff. We don't work through stuff. We actually clear stuff. And there's a big difference. So some people might come with a very, very specific thing in mind, and we might be able to do that in one session. My intention is always to do it in one session, which runs for about an hour. The only time one particular core issue may not be completed in a session is there's so much that's come up in relationship to that core issue. It's just not possible to do it in that time frame. And there's enough that happens, and it's quite, we cover a lot in a session in that first hour. And so it usually feels done, and then they may come back within a week or 2 weeks, something like that, to finish that particular core issue off. But that only happens 20% of the time. 80% of the time we can usually do it in one go. As I said, it just depends on the amount of work for that core issue, because we do work quite diligently and very efficiently in the session to get it done as quickly as possible. And then you'll have your other people that then clear that and go, look, that's great. I'm really noticing a difference with my money. I got a job last week, but now I really want to handle my money better. And it always seems to slip through my fingers, for example, and I'd like to deal with that now. And there might be something else in a month's time. And for those people, we can have some follow-up sessions, but it's not because they're desperate or we have to cover off something that they covered 6 months ago. It's a new level for them.
Is it, one question I've got is, if they come to you with say a customer comes to you with a problem about money, is it generally the core issue related to money, or could it be something else that's underlying?
Look, you're asking some excellent questions, Harsha, because you're absolutely right. It may not have anything to do with money. And this is where, when I was saying, have you create stories upon stories, if it was around money and we say, oh, my dad wasn't very good and he went bankrupt and we were from a poor family or whatever, and I want to let go of that, that's all relevant. That has created a certain level of beliefs and stuff. And, you know, I'm not disputing that. And that's relevant to a degree. But what it may not have anything to do with that as well. And that's the distinction when we talk about the core issue. In this level of work, it's really getting to the bottom line of what it is that has created this scenario in relationship to money. And it may have, I suppose you can't say may have nothing to do with the fact that your upbringing, you came from a poor upbringing, because every experience in our life shapes who we are and influences us. So that would be probably irresponsible to say that. But I have to say that that is often only a very small part of the picture.
Yeah.
And even if it's a big part of the picture, there is a clincher. There's that absolute core bottom line clincher that's going to, when cleared, ripple through that whole story and collapse it and unravel it. So it doesn't have to be part of the person's reality any longer.
Yep. And through the session, do you actually have to focus on their story and their mindset, or you just focus on a particular process that cuts through it?
No, we focus on the process that cuts through it. That is part of the problem. We're continually rehashing and revisiting our stories.
Yep.
And we know them very well. And for people who have done a lot of work, often this work it can be a little bit challenging at first because they're used to working on their stuff in inverted commas, and they've got lots of really good information and knowledge, and they understand their stuff beautifully. And when they come to me, we don't want to know about any of that. It is completely and utterly irrelevant. And that's a really important distinction with the work as well.
So do you find some people are challenged in that sense? Like
Sometimes if they've done a lot of work and they're also very, they've got a lot of knowledge, this sort of cuts through all of that.
Yep.
And just gets to the bottom line, but they're always very, very happy with the result.
And I think at the end of the day, the results are what someone is generally after, and if they can see it, and it gets to it much quicker than another, what they've been doing, and that makes
sense. It's a good thing though to say, Harsha, that some people actually want to process and process and process. And you know what? That is probably okay if that's what they want. But some people process and process wanting something different and wanting change. And this is where the core issue can be really helpful. But there are people out there that are quite fascinated with their journey in processing stuff and working through stuff. And they're quite enthralled by the whole process. And I'm just of the what I advocate is it's for those people that have maybe done that but don't want to do that anymore, or haven't done that and just want to get on with it. That's really what this work is for.
Now you mentioned that it's a sabotage clearing technique. Now, does this revolve around any particular area, like emotions or physicality or spirituality or the mind, or is it across? It's
really across the board. We don't sort of go in with in varying levels. We don't need to, because if we do that, we're still not getting to the core issue. We're just getting to an aspect of the core issue. So we don't have to dissect it like that. It's like turbocharging to the absolute bottom line, which is all encompassing in all those aspects. And this is where the programs that I've talked to you about, they're an important aspect because they affect your emotions, they affect your mindset, they're connected to you spiritually, they affect how you behave. So we sort of go beyond all of that, even though that's a very holistic way of looking at it, and people will appreciate that their emotions are more balanced. Their mind isn't so busy. That's one thing that people report, the stuff that goes on in their head. Their head is not so full of stuff all the time, because especially for the people that follow through, they start to clean out all that stuff and it just doesn't exist. And that gives them space to think about new stuff, better stuff of where they're going to and what they want to create and how they want to be in their life. And with all that other stuff, it just fills their head up so much that we don't, there's no room or space to move to another level.
Okay, so say someone comes to you, they spend a hour or hour and a half in the session. Is that correct?
No, the sessions usually go for an hour.
Okay.
It might be an hour and 10 minutes or something, but the sessions go for an hour. Because it's quite intense and we cover a lot, we can usually get through it all in that time frame.
Yep.
And, we might run over a little bit if need be just to finish it off. It's not like right on an hour, right in the middle of something, we're going to stop. But the sessions go for around an hour. And then if they're not fully completed, they're not fully completed where it wouldn't just take 5 minutes. They're not fully completed, so you have to come back for a follow-up session to finish it off, because there's a fair bit more to do. And it's no good trying to rush it, and we want to be thorough, and we do it once, and we do it once properly.
Yep. So they come for the hour, or if there's a follow-up session. How do people respond afterwards? How do you generally find, are they drained, or are they, what's the
Yeah. Well, it does vary. Sometimes they can feel a bit tired, because it's a bit like, moving the furniture around a house and moving it out the door. You can feel a little bit weary of it, but then you look around the room and you think, oh, great, it's all done, or cleaned out the cupboard, that whole shelf is all sorted. I don't have to go back and do that anymore. And it's a good feeling, a good tired feeling.
Yep.
So that can happen. Or they just feel much, much lighter immediately. And it's not cathartic. It's not, lots of emotion. I mean, occasionally there'll be some tears once in a blue moon. That will happen because there's something clearing, and that's a healthy response. But it's not some raking up all the dregs of the past and processing it all and talking about it all, because it doesn't really change anything doing that. It just reinforces and reaffirms the issue.
Yeah. So is there follow-up? Like, do they have to do anything after the sessions? Do they have to do, I don't know? No? So
because it's done. Yeah. And that's the distinction when I'm talking about, working on stuff. When it's done, you don't need to keep working on it. Yep. It doesn't mean that then you don't aspire to the next level in your life, or addressing, if you've sorted out your issues in your business, in relationship to attracting more clients, for example, and you start to find that that's flowing. There may be another aspect in your business. It might be your budgeting or your marketing budget, or it might be, what you offer your clients and taking that to a new level, or expanding your business, whatever it is in any aspect of your life, then we would start addressing that side of it as well. But it's amazing that once you start to attract more clients, that might be all you need, and then everything else in your business starts to play out in a different way, and that might be sufficient for you. And if it's not, and you're very entrepreneurial, or you're aspiring to shifting your consciousness to a new level, you will have some follow-ups over time.
Okay. Look, Christine, it's been wonderful talking to you. Now, if people out there want to find out more, actually, before I go into that, would they need to come face-to-face to do this, or can they do it over the phone or Skype?
Yeah, no, it's great. We can do it on Skype, by phone, or in person. And I am looking at doing more group work as well. The group work, we can't do everything that you can do in a one-on-one consultation. There's a level of very personalised session when it's one-on-one, but there is a lot you can do in a group, and a group dynamic also has its advantages because of the energy of the group. And I'll be doing more of that because I've developed it in a way that can happen. And the groups can be done on webinars, so it can be done for anyone, anywhere in the world, as well as with, in the room together. So there's really no limitation, and it's accessible to anyone that wants it.
Excellent. Now, if people want to find out more about having a session, where would they go to?
Yes, they could contact me I've got the main website that's up at the moment is Australian Aromatic Essences.com. If you go into contact and just fill in the form and contact me, we can organise something for sure, and I can send you some information as well. But there will eventually be a landing page for core issue elimination. But at the moment, if you just go to that website under contacts and contact me and say you want more information with your details, we'll be able to catch up and organise something for you.
Excellent. Is there also a phone number associated that they can phone you directly, or?
Yes, that's right. And for Australian clients, 0409 140 173. That is mobile, and you can contact me by phone. I run 2 clinics in Melbourne, one in Frankston and one in Surrey Hills, which is sort of Canterbury area in Melbourne. But as we said, we can do it over the phone or via Skype as well.
Excellent, Christine. Look, I look forward to talking to you next time. I believe we're talking about the aromatic essences, correct?
That's correct. That would be fantastic, Harsha, and I really appreciate your time and interest and your energy, and I look forward to catching up with you again.
Look, I'm just excited to learn more about these techniques and what how people can, help people out there to shift their consciousness and get to that next level. And I'm sure, people who aspire to that will deeply be interested in this.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's really, really great to have your support. Thanks very much, Harsha.
Okay. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.